Hello, everyone. Good evening. It is that time for the first full episode of Law and No Order Special Survivors Unit. I'm so excited. I hope you enjoy the episode. Talk to you soon.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. I'm Natasha Misty, and this is Holli Tabren, and welcome to the first edition of Law and No Order Special Survivors. I'm a former law enforcement officer. I was a correction officer for 20 years on Rikers Island. I worked in a men's jail. I did a lot of transportation. I worked with men, children, women, you name it, I done it. And now here, on the other side of me is Holli.
Yes.
Who she's going to explain her story. We're going to go through a deep interview. Holli, hi, let's tell everybody about yourself.
Hello, my name is Holli Tabren, and like she said, this podcast is called Law and No Order Special Survivors Unit. I thought it was fitting for us to introduce the podcast for the first episode because Law and No Order is basically letting you know, giving you a highlight that there are two sets of laws that people abide by in this world. Some people may not understand that, right? But there are the laws of the land and the laws of the streets. But the order by which you abide these laws determine how your story ends. So in this podcast, we're going to be conversing with people from all different walks of life about the consequences of the choices that they made with the chances that they were given. But ultimately, about the challenges that they face with cultivating a different conclusion. So they're going to be changing their stories, okay? And we're going to learn more about that. So why not set it off with me, right? I wanted to do this podcast because I really needed to highlight how important it is to understand that you have the opportunity to change your story. People get so discouraged nowadays. There are so many things going on in the world, and sometimes you just feel like giving up, especially when you have made certain choices in your life and you have suffered so many consequences, you have dealt with great loss, you really feel like there's no coming back from that. But this podcast is to show you that no matter what you have gone through, what choices you've made, if you make the choice to be different, to change your story, and you begin to execute on that, it's possible. Yes.
Okay, so we're going to piggyback off of that a little bit. So we're going to start off with you, Holli, and some of the choices that you made that reflected on who you are today and your lifestyle.
Right.
So let's start with what landed you in the lifestyle that was not of order, per se?
Wow, the lifestyle that was not of order. So, a phone call, right? Yes, it was a phone call. Who would have thought, right? Be careful when that phone ring, okay? When y'all answer the phone, okay? Be careful how you answer that phone when that phone ring. You never know how that can change your whole life, right? And so I got a phone call. I was working for a media company in Midtown, and I got a phone call from a friend, simply just asking if I wanted to make some extra money.
Okay. Just so we could know, this phone call, this friend, how old are you at this time?
I was 19. 19 years old.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you're 19, you chilling, working, doing the American dream thing, corporate America.
Corporate America.
Okay, and you have some friends that might be a little bit different from you.
Total opposite of me.
Total opposite of you.
Be careful how you choose your friends.
Absolutely. Your mother always say that.
Mama always told me.
So she's total opposite of you. She give you a call. Hey, Holli, what's up? You want to make this money?
Right.
And Holli goes,
so then I go, of course, I'm like, how? First I'm like, make this money doing what? She's like, you want to make $5,000. So at 19, $5,000 was quite a bit because, I'm like 25 plus shipping and handling. So I'm a little couple of years past 19. Okay.
Shipping and handling.
So,
okay.
At that time,
I'm 25 still.
Yes. Okay. And I'm, so at that time, I was thinking that $5,000 was quite a bit. And the first thing you do, I think I was making maybe $10 an hour. And I would calculate how long it was going to take me to make $5,000, especially with half of my check being taken all the time with taxes and everything. And it was going to take quite a bit to make that $5,000 net. So I said, what does this entail? We just gotta go, drop something off, and we'll be back. All expenses paid. Don't have to go in your pocket. Don't even have to spend none of your $5,000 for gas, hotel, none of that. Sound like such a sweet deal.
Sweet
so
deal.
I took it.
So now you find yourself in a car riding. Mm-hmm. Now you knew you was riding dirty, right?
Oh yes.
So you knew what you was getting into. Mm-hmm. So at some point you rode dirty, you got away with it, and now you getting this money. And this money leads to what type of lifestyle?
Ooh, it led to a lifestyle of everything, right? Everything that I would see on the music videos, everything that I read in the books, everything that I would see in my environment. I grew up in Harlem, right? I'm from 132nd and 7th. I grew up in Alpo, Richport days. They were a lot older. I was young, but I grew up watching that. Grew up watching the females in the fly cars. I grew up with family in the music industry, so I was always at the lit parties and always around stars
so
and
that
things
lifestyle
like that.
was very appealing to you.
Was it?
You had to be in that life.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm from Brooklyn, so things are a little different. You know what I mean? But I do know, like, when you have a certain lifestyle, the cars, the money, the fame, the clubs, that was appealing to you. 19, you were on top of the world. So I'm gathering you started a new relationship with this friend, and y'all started riding dirty off-road.
Right. Very often. So this relationship started since, the first trip was very successful, obviously. And then I winds up taking 2 and 3 trips throughout the week. And then it just escalated to more and more. And one thing, when you get into that lifestyle, the better you are at it, the more people can trust you, the more opportunities you have. And I guess that's with anything, right? The more you do a job very well and people trust you, they give you more and more opportunity. But unfortunately, on the illegal side of the game, at the time, of course, you look at it as a great promotion. But in the long run, you're going to realize it's not so great.
So you have this nice little soft voice, this proper talking and stuff. You wasn't afraid? You wasn't scared?
Never scared.
Never scared.
Never scared.
Never scared. You hear that? Never. Be careful of these soft voices and proper
Don't
speaking,
let it fool
right?
you, okay?
Right. So you progressed, and as you progressed, obviously you branched off to your own thing, becoming more independent. You was loyal, and now you kind of determined to be your own boss. How did you get there?
So really, it was kind of crazy, right? Because I had a partner for quite a bit of time, and then some things, of course, a lot of times in that game, trust and loyalty does not come easy, right? You learn a lot of terrible truths about situations, about people, and things like that. So there were some issues with our work environment and stuff like that. Some things, happen, and there were some discrepancies in some things. So me and my original partner kind of, separated for some time. And it's so crazy because at that time, by the time that happened, I realized this is really not for me. I started to recognize that the other side of this game, right? It wasn't just about the VIP and the shopping sprees and the flying everywhere in first class and all of that. It wasn't about that anymore. Now it's about the serious business. Now, people's lives are at stake. There are choices that need to be made. And you realize just the type of soul, the type of heart that you need to be successful in this business.
So it was a character call. You started learning a lot about your character, what you was made of. Was you cold? Was you heartless?
Right.
Because in this business, a lot of times you have to be heartless.
You have to be heartless.
You just have to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's rules, and when people break them, so you have to prove yourself. So, I mean, how did that affect you?
It affected me. Yeah, it really did affect me because I realized that I don't like this part of the lifestyle, and so that's when you realize that it's always something pulling on you, tugging on your heart. There's this voice whispering that you're not supposed to be in this situation, that you were designed for something greater. But sometimes your environment dictates something different. And I grew up in the middle of Harlem, an environment that dictated something so different from what the voice in my head was telling me, from what my parents were telling me. And I followed what I saw. I followed the people in my environment because it felt good. It was fun. It was exciting.
Yeah, you felt like you was living life.
Yes,
you was on top
it gives
of the
you
world.
power. It gives you
that adrenaline.
Yes, and everyone knows who you are. Everybody's falling in line. No matter what you ask, people are going to do. And you think it's because so many people have so much love for you, right? Sometimes when you're in that lifestyle,
everybody loves you when you're
everybody loves you, right? And why they love you so much? Why? Because when they got them bills and they need this paid and that paid, you're there. But why? Because everyone loves you. Why not provide for them? Then you realize when you can't do certain things for people, you understand that it was never really love. It was just because of what you can do for them.
We're going to get to that because that's the next part that we definitely going to get to. So basically, we talking about how you got there. So we know it's that phone call. Mm-hmm. You're young. You're impressionable. You want this money. You want the cars. You want the glitz. You want the glamour.
Yes.
Then we know you branch off because, like most females, it just don't go right between us. There's egos involved, right. Jealousy, loyalties, just a bunch of things going on. So you get yourself together, and then you find yourself doing things your own way, alone, and you find yourself somewhere, where? In the South?
So when everything happened, where I realized that this is just not the thing for me, in my head, I said, well, I can just go to college, right? I've always been very smart, always had really good jobs, and I was just like, I can just go to college and I can just change everything, right? Go to college, get a degree, and just start all over, go back to doing the right thing, get back to this corporate life. And then I went to college, and I just went out one night.
Hanging out.
And hanging out with the college kids. And then I just meet someone who...
But what kind of college kids were these that you so happened to go to the club and you meet what? A connect?
A connect, yes.
And how did that happen? Like you looking for the best weed or something?
Exactly.
Or how did this happen?
Right. So we were in college. They're smoking weed. Everyone's smoking weed. So you had to go off campus to go find some weed or whatever. And there was this place that we would go to. I was going to University of Maryland. And so it was a place in Baltimore. I forgot exactly where it was, but it's some kind of like disco place. It was very different from me coming from Harlem, going out somewhere with all these lights and smoke and all of this. Mm-hmm. So I was always kind of like in the corner, always by myself. I never really had a thick crew, maybe one or two, but I rode Zolo a lot of places, and so I was just off to myself because I was kind of used to being to myself, and wound up meeting someone or whatever, and just so happened they were very well known in their area, and they had everything that I was looking for.
Oh, in
large amounts.
So somewhere you get hooked up with him.
Right. Yeah. So somewhere we go out for a little bit, and you know how it is sometimes when you meet the connect, everything that you desire, you get it times 10 and 20 and 30. So then I find myself with lots of marijuana, with lots of people who like to smoke marijuana, and I'm back in this same cycle of, just making money. Yeah, because the money is addictive, Misty.
Oh, yes.
Let me tell you, I began to recognize later on, the severity of the drug addiction. And I do not discount that, negate that. Drug addiction is something like I can't even explain. Like it's awful. However, addiction to money, I think, is equal to that. People do horrible, horrible things for the love of money, the same way they do for an addiction,
Right.
And coming to that realization, was very hard. It was hard to kind of admit, having, any type of dependency or anything, but it didn't seem like it was natural to try to equate addiction to money to addiction to drugs.
Right, because money is like your high. So money is the type of thing we need it for everything, right?
Right.
So we hear all this time it's the root of all evil, but
Yes.
you ain't evil. You living your best life.
Right.
So it's good. This is what. Who am I hurting? Everybody
Right.
making their own choices, and you made your choice.
Right.
Okay. So now we went to Maryland. We met to connect. We fell out of college.
Yes. So we fell out of college, right? First semester, flunked that. And it wasn't because I didn't know how to do the work. That was easy. Just didn't show up.
Yeah.
Why? Because that one night going out, started making so much money, I didn't have time for school. I didn't have time to show up for class. Wasted my dad's money, right? Because he paid for it. And I was just so... I felt like I was so focused. I didn't realize it till later, because after Maryland, I said to myself, you know what? I did this thing. I fell out of this, but I'm going to make it right? Always trying to fix things, make it right. I don't want my daddy to be mad at me for forever. And so my plan was to move to South Carolina, live for a year, right? Because my brother had a barbershop there. I was going to get some type of a business or do something for a year so that I can apply to college and be in state and don't have to pay those ridiculous out-of-state fees. That was the plan.
So we done went from Harlem to Maryland. Now we in South Carolina. We getting around the world, y'all. And
Listen,
the question
honey.
is, what did Holly do when she got to South Carolina? Did you transform and...
So I had every intention, right? And intention is important, right? And so I got a job. I did. I went, as soon as I got there, I went and I got a job. I was working for Blue Cross Blue Shield. And they had some type of Medicare call center kind of a thing. So I started off with that, with Blue Cross Blue Shield, for quite some time. It was a temporary job. So I got a few jobs through temp agencies initially. An energy company, Pace Energy, I believe it was, and things like that. But I still had a lot of weed, right? From Maryland. But in my mind, it's just weed, right? You know, it's not that bad. It wasn't legal yet, but I still was like, you know, it's just weed, because it was legal somewhere. And so...
yeah, somewhere in Jamaica. At that time, in Jamaica somewhere. Yeah, it's still not legal.
You know, and so... I feel, you know, I got to get rid of this weed, you know, and then I'm done. And by the time I get rid of that, I'll have enough money and kind of a cushion, and I'll be straight. You know, I went down there, got an apartment, paid it up for 6 months and stuff like that to give me that time to get things in line, right? And so that was the plan.
Okay, so we hear the plan. We want to know what happened.
So, with the weed, I started to hang around my family. I was with my cousins and my family, and so, you know, my cousins knew kind of some of the things that I had going on previously. Some of the people that I may know, whatever. So, you know, they were like, we really need to do some things. You know, we're messed up here. This, that, and third. I know you're not, you know, messing around, but at least, you know, connect us with who we would need to be connected to, so that we can do what we need to do. And so I said, okay, I'll see what I can do. And I wind up going backwards. I already started going backwards subtly, right, with the marijuana. It's so crazy how we try to lie to ourselves, right? We try to say, oh, we're not doing that, but then we do this. Oh, that's not as bad as that. But, you know, we make excuses, and we justify certain one drug over another, understanding that the consequence of some drugs is more severe than others. I'm not trying to negate that. But illegal actions are illegal actions, regardless of which way you turn. But when you're in it, you don't think about that. You're operating by the laws of the streets.
Right,
and
it's just weed.
Right, it's just weed.
You ain't stealing refrigerators like the crackheads or selling your baby. You just smoking some trees.
Right, just smoking some trees. So it just so happened that having the trees or whatever, a certain person would come and get some, you know, quite often. And he only came to get some because he wanted to know who I was. And so just so happened this particular person would come quite often. And he was pretty much known as, you know, the person. And somehow, some way, I fulfilled my cousin's, you know, order or whatever of what it is that they needed, and it started to help them.
Okay, so we revert back into the lifestyle. Now you like a mini queen of the South. So you're getting this fast money, and then something goes wrong.
Right. Something goes terribly wrong. So we're getting this fast money, and something happened with one of my cousins. He made a deal with someone who was intentionally setting him up. The person got arrested earlier that day, and you know how the police do. They arrested him and told him he can get out of his situation, but he had to set up 3 people in order to get out of his situation with more drugs than what he had. So one of those 3 people just so happened to be my cousin that he set up. And so I was in the vehicle. It was my vehicle when I'm going to meet this person. It was so crazy because God just gives you all kind of warning signs. When I tell you, God tried to warn me so many times prior to that night. And even that night, it was like there was something telling me to stay, get out of the car and stay and let them go. But I didn't. I was smoking weed. Mm-hmm. Boy, weed had you stuck. And you be stuck for 25 years too, messing around, right? So I was smoking weed, and I'm sitting, and I'm in the car, and I'm just like, I just don't feel like getting up. I'll just ride with y'all. We were going out together after the fact that night anyway. I believe it was a Friday night or Saturday. So I said, I might as well go with y'all. Then we go by my aunt's house. I'll change up, and freshen up, and then we're going to go out for some drinks. That was the plan. And so I ride with them. My other cousin is driving. I'm in the passenger side. So we go meet this person that my cousin knows. I never even met him before, never seen him a day in my life. But both of my cousins knew him and supposedly went to school with him or something like that. So I was good. They knew him. They co-signed him. Everything was good.
So you never questioned who the guy was or anything. They said he was good. He was good.
They stamped them, right?
Okay.
So
2 male cousins,
right? And so the one that called him originally stamped him, but when he got in the car, my cousin that was driving knew him too, and so they had small talk, kind of like a little bit. Okay. But the guy was a little shifty.
Mm-hmm. Your New York sense went up,
right? Look, sense went up, but I didn't know him either, so I was like, I figured. Maybe that's just kind of how he is, Right. And so, but then when he didn't have any money, and he said, I'll be right back. When my cousin, I guess, showed him that he had what he needed. Mm-hmm. And he was like, all right, I'm going to get the money. Then all of a sudden, the car was surrounded. Police everywhere.
Wow. So here you are now. Chilling, about to be on top of smoking your weed, a nice quiet night. Now you surrounded by the police. Yes. What happens then? That moment of the police.
So I'm surrounded by the police, guns in our face, screaming, "Get out of the car!" Whatever, get out of the car. Get out of the car. I just do what they say. Get out of the car. And if you talk about being scared, I was kind of scared then because it was a shock, It was so unexpected. So there was that kind of fear like, oh, hell. And I already knew what it was. I knew I was dirty. I had probably about $220-something, $3,000, not that much in my purse. But I had an ounce of weed, and it wasn't legal in this country.
Right. Right.
So, and I had a blunt, and so, the first thing the police said to me was, "Where did you get this weed from?" And even though that I told you I was scared initially, when he said, "Where you get this weed from?" immediately I jumped right back into who I was, and I was like, "That's irrelevant."
Yeah, like
that's
irrelevant.
Don't ask me. Yeah, like where I get this weed from is irrelevant.
Yeah, you still got it. I'm getting locked up.
Yeah, and so he was like, he said to me, "Oh, so you don't want to cooperate?" Mm-hmm. He told me I was going to be begging to talk to him in 72 hours. David Dowie, never forget him. Was going to be begging to talk to him in 72 hours is what he told me. He's still waiting for me to call him.
Right, you okay?
Still waiting.
Right. You're right.
Still waiting. And so they lock us up. They put a 72-hour hold on me. I got all kind of charges. But I'd never been in trouble before. But initially, they tried to put me in a second offense, would have me at a higher bond. And I'm like, a second offense? Like, why?
Yeah, why?
And I remember prior, like years before, I had like a simple possession of marijuana. It was a misdemeanor that I paid a fine. But so I shouldn't have not been charged like in a second. That wasn't, a crime that accounted for me to be charged in a second. So when they looked at everything, they changed that and came back with a lower bond. So at 72 hours and 1 second, I bonded out. Okay. After that little 72-hour hold, I was out of there.
So now you back on the street. It stopped your whole connection, obviously, because now y'all hot. Y'all hot. The cousins are hot. You're hot. Y'all trying to figure out. At this point, y'all know y'all was set up your cousin so-called connect. What's going on now when y'all in the street? You are waiting trial. They are waiting trial.
So initially, I realized. So I should have realized, but I didn't. Right, because these are my two male cousins, older male cousins, that always had my back, right? They always protected me when I was younger, whatever. So I didn't think anything other than the fact that, we got to figure out what happened. You know what I mean? Because I still don't know the whole story.
Did it ever cross your mind, even then, my cousins got me, even if it is something, they're going to make sure I'm good.
Right.
That's what you're thinking.
And the whole purpose and the whole reason for that, let's not get anything twisted, is the fact that you made the decision to do a deal with this person, right? Regardless, I don't know this person at all. Never seen this person, met this person or whatever. Whatever happens in that situation is on you. You know what I'm saying? Because,
absolutely.
Right. And that's how I felt about
We're not
that.
Going to negate the fact that you made the decision. I just rolled with you with the decision. I held y'all down. Y'all my family. Y'all males. Y'all have priors. I'm dirty. I know I'm dirty, but I have no priors. I have no type of charges underneath my belt. What happens after this? You get out. You ultimately decide to go to trial?
So this is the part that hurt a little bit, right? So when I got out, I got my bond. So now I'm looking to try to figure out what's going on with my cousins. They need bonds, whatever. They need lawyers. And so my cousin that got set up, his aunt, his cousin, they said they were good. They didn't need anything. Should have known then, right? Now, my other cousin, Terrence, paid for his lawyer, bonded him out and everything. But we're out on bond for like 3 years. Almost 3 years. So
what's your communication like when y'all out for 3 years?
So with Terrence, he was practically living with me for quite some time. Wow. But with Ra, he kind of like was distant, really kind of started like, really acting funny, just kind of like distancing himself.
Okay. So let me ask you, because I know it's Ra and it's Terrence, right? Who actually made the deal with the guy?
Ra.
So he makes the deal. Is ultimately because of him, y'all all in this.
Right.
And he's the one that's distant from you now.
Yes.
Okay.
He's the one that's a little more, distant, pretty much.
So y'all out. 3 years is going by. Everybody's doing their own thing, paying for their lawyers and stuff like that.
So no. Well, I guess Ra is, that's what I thought initially. And I don't really know for a fact, if he was or if he wasn't. I was told that he wasn't. And when he testified at my trial, he didn't have a lawyer present representing him. You know what I mean? So I don't know if he had one before or whatever.
Okay, stop. Hold the presses. He testified at your trial.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get to that. Y'all, you assume y'all all Codys. Somewhere in here you find out that your Codys are not actually your Codys. They actually turned against you. Right. And now it's no longer them. You here holding this bag, and somehow your protectors, your cousins, somehow you finding out that they're not exactly Codys. When do you start figuring that out?
It's so crazy because, all right, so initially when I paid for the down payment for Terrence's lawyer, there were still, fees that had to be paid. Mind you, we're out on bond for 3 years. And in that time, it was like, okay, like I paid this, got to get a job. Like you still going to have to, because they no more playing around. They no more playing in the streets, none of that. Like my peoples that I knew, that my number, don't call me. I'm not calling you. If you hear anything, me calling you. I just didn't want no one else to get caught up in anything that I had going on, because it was me and my cousins, going on. And anybody who's listening to this that know me know that I was letting people know from a different right away, going to see people like, look, we're not,
That's it.
No contact, we're not having it. So it was so crazy. I had a restaurant in Camden at the time, closed the restaurant, everything, because one thing about doing anything, committing a crime in a small town, it just ruins everything for you, right? You just have this terrible reputation. Everybody's looking at you like this terrible person. And so it just wasn't right. So I wound up shutting down the restaurant, and I went to real estate school.
Oh, good. So you're in rehabilitation now.
Now I'm like, I can't do this.
I was like, this had you back on straight and narrow.
Them jail uniforms ain't cute, okay?
Right.
At all.
I know what it's like. Those 3 days, we not giving you much of nothing. You on them pin floors. You might get some soap. You might not. And you talk slick, you ain't getting shit.
That's right.
And that's what it is. Like, that's the jail life, So I know exactly what that's like. That had to be the hardest 72 hours of your entire life.
It was.
A shell shock. Okay, so you did that. You prepping now to go to trial. Time is up. Y'all going to trial. You realizing, like I said, your codees aren't exactly your codees. You hearing some things to let you know that perhaps they might be snitching. And not only snitching, but throwing salt in the game.
Yes.
Possibly because just my experience as a law enforcement officer and taking so many young ladies upstate, a lot of men feel like, oh, she don't got no charge. They're going to slap her on the wrist. It's going to be easy. She'll get out of it. So we'll throw it on her. She's going to get out of it. And we'll be out. Everybody be out. But it don't turn out that way. I'm here to tell you that is a total lie. So in your case, I don't know if that was what your cousins was thinking. Because to me, a snitch is a snitch. A snitch is a snitch. I'm a law enforcement officer. And there's no loyalty in snitching. We don't respect them even on our side. Right. Like there's no, it just is. You do the crime, you hold it down. That's all we know, and that's the language we speak in jail too. Like ultimately, as an officer, we look at inmates, and there's rules, right? And we all follow this governing of rules. So it's a matter of respect, the code of respect that's given. So now here you are, you go on a trial, and somewhere you find out that your cousins are actually testifying against you.
Yes.
So talk about that.
So, and that was like the hardest pill to swallow, right? And it was so crazy because even they would show me, my lawyer had came to me, showing me papers. Mind you, like I was out on bond for 3 years, okay? Almost 3 years. So I went to real estate school.
Starting a new life.
I'm in real estate. It took me like 8 months to sell my first house. Then sold 3 houses in 1 month. I was killing it. Like my last 4 months of that first year in real estate. And so I just felt like, oh my God, I'm transitioning things. Like everything is going to go, perfect. And then one of my cousins get locked up, right? For like child support or something. So my cousin's mom contacts me. It was like, he's locked up for child support, whatever. He's stressed out. He don't want to be in there. Now, mind you, this time had lapsed. He wasn't paying for his lawyer, and the lawyer that I initially put the down payment on for him, he still had some payments, left or whatever, and he wasn't paying it. So the lawyer was not going to represent him. He tried to work some things out with him, and somehow, some way, it didn't happen. So even at the end, like right before my trial, I went with his mom and paid $5,000 for another lawyer for him to testify against me. Now, my cousin Rod didn't want any assistance, any help. So what I should have known then what it
was.
was. He was already gonna do whatever. But again, you could not tell me that was happening. Okay, my lawyer was even trying to tell me, like, I don't know. I spoke with the prosecutor. I'm telling you, I was like, they lying. That's what they do. You know what I'm saying?
Telling your lawyer?
My lawyer.
Not my
I got 2 lawyers.
Not my fan.
You know what it took? My mama.
Your mama.
Like, she was listening to everything in there. We meet the lawyers, whatever. When we got home, and she just held me and she said, baby, they not lying.
Your mama.
I believe
her nephews.
They her nephews. She said, baby, they not lying. I believe you. And she said to me, and I had a dream last night, which is why I know they're not lying. And I'm like,
the mother
what?
Dreams.
She said, you're going to be taken away from me for a while.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, she had that.
I'm like, wow, why you being negative?
Like a mother's intuition. Those dreams.
She said, I woke up and the same pain that you gave me when you were in my stomach is the same pain I felt as if you were there all over again.
Wow.
And then I felt you being like ripped apart from me, like when I had you, like that release, like this a separation, and she felt like that represented me going away. And she would say stuff like, it's okay, baby, I'm gonna come see you in your little black and white, because everything was black and white,
right, like the TV.
Yeah, like the TV. And I say, Mom, why you say stuff like that?
Was that a moment of clarity for you, or you just it never registered?
And you know what? It's almost like it wasn't going to occur in a sense, because I started to reflect back about the funny acting things. You know, like, why didn't I see this before? You know, but it was like I still didn't want to believe that. I just did not want to believe that. And
so now you're in court.
Yeah.
They take the stand. And you watching them take the stand.
Yeah.
And your cousins begin to testify against you.
Right. So let me make something clear. My one cousin, Terrence, when he got on the stand, he couldn't really fulfill his statement, type of thing. He tried to
change your heart.
Yeah, he tried to take it back.
But it was
too late. It was too late.
He had some heart, some character.
Right. And I guess seeing me and being in the court, you know, he didn't even look. He glanced at me, but he couldn't look at me as he talked. And his mom was in the stand. And it was so crazy because his mom was in the stand, like, disrupting the court proceeding, in a sense.
Your auntie.
No, my cousin. So he's my second cousin. Both of these are my second cousins.
Oh, okay.
Their moms is my first cousin. So I have like 6 generations of cousins from my father. You know, my family's huge.
Right.
And we were very family oriented.
Right.
And so this situation split our family. Everybody took sides. Everybody had opinions. Everybody, you know, just definitely didn't abide by the laws of the streets. Like they just, you know, and it's because maybe they didn't feel that way, you know what I mean, because they weren't in it. So everybody just had their own way of looking at the situation, but it definitely tore our family apart.
So he went and retracted a little bit.
He tried to retract.
But they already tore him up because he already gave his statement.
Listen, when they read the statement,
he already gave a statement
that my cousin supposedly wrote in the county, and it was like, listen, I'ma say that I did this, that, and the third, and I saw her pass this, and then you gonna say that I didn't see anything and we good. It was, and I was like, when the prosecutor read this, I said, doesn't that say like they conspired together to get their story straight? But somehow, some way, that was a statement for the prosecution against me. So crazy. It's totally different from the movies, let me tell you.
I
the books. Totally different from the book. You know? And so, like, it just didn't make any sense. Like, how was that for them? Like, doesn't that clearly state that they were figuring out their statement?
Okay, so before we get to what happened in your sentence and stuff, I want to ask you something that I know probably hasn't really been asked. Hearing them testify, retract, seeing the statements, what did that do to you emotionally and mentally? How did that affect you? The betrayal.
You know what? It's unexplainable. It almost like it's almost like being ripped apart in a sense. To the point, it's so crazy because, and I know we're gonna go back, but when I was sentenced and when I was in receiving, my first night, the officer was banging on the door and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, receiving is like still doors, floors, this and a third. It's usually one office and office station downstairs. I think I was on like the second, third floor, but I was just screaming, obviously, so loud. And the last
Agony.
No, the last movie I saw was Legion, right? And it was kind of like this war between good and evil kind of a thing. You ever seen that movie? But anyway, it was a really good movie. It's the last movie I saw when I went to prison, and that was probably not the best movie to see. And it was almost like those legions were my cousins in my dream, and they were attacking me, just like in the movie. And I was just screaming. I was so mad and so angry, like. And it was like even after I was sentenced and I'm about to start my time, they were still attacking me in my dreams.
So, anger. You anger-filled.
Angry, bitter, mad, revengeful, everything.
Vengeful. Right. So you didn't get time to feel the hurt or the betrayal.
I felt a lot of that. Mostly from one than the other. Because one of my cousins, like I said, lived with me. I mean, I pretty much took like... And mind you, how many child supports I paid before I realized they wasn't letting him out. See, that's another thing. I went and got him another lawyer. His mom came to me and was like, he owed $1,200 child support. If you pay the child support, he'll get out. I paid child support because he kept saying he didn't want to sit there until trial. I kept paying child support after child support and lawyer and everything. And they wouldn't let him go. And they wouldn't let them go because they wanted to make sure they testified against me, which they did.
Okay. So now we got... the two cousins, snitches, and not. I mean, that's my terminology. I'm gonna call them snitches. I don't know it's nothing else, and I'm not even gonna say snitches because snitches, when you honestly telling on somebody that did something, this is a little bit worse than snitching because this is a whole bitch ass character call thing. Because how do you take your female cousin and testify against her, and half of it is made up when you knew it was your decision? So now they testify. The court let a lot of these statements and stuff go through, and now you get sentenced, and the judge says what?
So I'm found guilty, and the judge sentenced me to 25 years.
25 years. First offense, not a felony, never anything in trouble really besides a little possession of marijuana that you use for personal use. And the judge go 25 years. What happens in your soul and your heart and your mind then?
God. So the first thing is, my mom is there and she is just broken, and so that broke me. I can't remember if I cried. I think I was quite numb. I don't think I cried initially, but my mama cried, which is kind of weird because I'm a crybaby, especially sometimes. And so my mom, I just heard her crying, and she was just asking the judge for mercy. I remember her asking the judge for mercy, and the judge looked at my mom, and even though he was considered a harsh judge, it was almost like his eyes softened, and he was just like, it's nothing I can do, because she blew trial. And so the sentencing guidelines, dictated that 25 years was the minimum that I can get for my charge.
Now, I'm sure you never imagined that you would hear those, oh, we're going to get a tissue.
I know, right?
Like, well, this is good.
Baby.
No, it's okay, because we both cry baby. But 25 years of your life, you listening to this judge, you didn't kill nobody. You didn't even do the crime at this time. Your cousins betrayed you. You alone now, and you hear this sentence. What's the first thing you think of that? Did you think your life is over? What did you think?
Oh my God. So this is probably the most crazy.
I knew I should have had tissue somewhere.
I know, right?
But
you should have known I was going to be crying. So anyway, the first thing I thought about was, dang, I'll never get to have a baby.
Wow.
25. I kept calculating. I think I was 28 at the time. 28. And I was like, if I did 25 years, 48, 50 something, I'm never going to have a kid.
Right.
And so, mind you, I had, the honor and the privilege to help raise, some babies. And Brianna, that's pretty much my baby. Mm-hmm. She's grown now. She's 25. And so she says I don't need to have anybody else. She's spoiled rotten, okay? But, I still did not have that experience of actually having a child. Right. In that sense, having a child. I experienced motherhood. Yeah, because, honey, Brianna was a piece of work. She let me know. She put, listen, she was very demanding.
So I'm thinking to myself, 25 years, hear a judge tell me that. I can't tell you I could place what I would be thinking, but I would tell you, I don't know the things that we take for granted, like motherhood. I am a mother. I don't know what I would have been thinking, but something such as motherhood to be the first thing that when you equate life, you equate your happiness with straight to motherhood. And of course, that's when reality sets in that your life has changed forever. And now we're going to get a little bit to your consequence.
Oh, yeah.
So you felt that somewhere down the line after your anger and your bitterness, did you feel like this was just everything coming back tenfold for you for the decisions you made previously? Like your karma? What did you feel it was?
So, initially you don't feel that way, right?
Right.
It's so crazy. Initially, I was mad, right? I felt like my cousins betrayed me. And then it was so crazy. I was already mad and felt betrayed, but then when I went for my PCR, I felt even more betrayed because then they tell you exactly what happened. They say. Everything. Yes, that's the how everything that happens went. In your PCR, you get it, the whole breakdown.
Yes, I know.
That really pissed me off. But initially, I felt betrayed. I was so upset. I kept replaying everything and then I just kept saying, why didn't you just get out the car? Like, God was just trying to warn you. Like, why didn't you take heed to the warning? Like, then I started being mad at myself, and it was just like, and then for some reason I was like, okay, if I don't say I have 25 years, if I don't say that, and if I don't verbalize that life and death is in the power of the tongue, then I wanted to start referring back to my biblical
right now. Everybody go back to church now. Everybody find God.
Yeah,
everybody find God.
Listen, I started thinking about all the scriptures I could remember.
To hold you down.
Yeah, so I was like, if I'm not gonna claim that 25 years. I'm not gonna do that. Whatever. And it's easy in the beginning to do that. Let me tell you something, though. While I was in receiving, I got a letter from my friend LaShawn. And when I tell you it was the realest letter anybody has ever wrote me, because it wasn't no fluff. Like, she kept it straight real. She, straight real. And she said, listen, she said, people... why you doing this time? I want you to get ready for your time. She said, people are going to make you promises. And when they make the promises, when they say they're going to be there for you and they're going to look out for you, they have every intention of doing that. They truly believe that they are going to be able to be there for you and they're going to be there. They love you. They truly believe that. But life happens. And when life happens, the way different people deal with life is different for each person. And she said, even me, I might tell you some things. I might make you some promises that I can't keep. And don't think that I don't love you because I didn't keep those promises. I might just be dealing with life.
Yes.
And just letting me know that sometimes when
Prepare
people
yourself.
Can't fulfill what they promised, or you feel like they forgot about you, they still love you. They just dealing with life. The only way
it's like death. Like, we all there when somebody dies, right? Everybody's in your house. Everybody do all these things, but we always talk about it. Once the funeral is over, the repast is over, we come home and you love the people, but we all live life. And the people who suffered the loss, you're there alone. And you have to weather your storm alone.
Yeah.
So that is a death. You know, prison is a death sentence in a way, meaning that the death of being cut off from the real world. It's traumatic.
It is.
You're accustomed to living a certain lifestyle, and although you know you're around people, it's so many spirits and wickedness and just so many different backgrounds. How do you begin to prepare to handle that stuff while you're in prison?
It's so crazy, right? So I told you about the letter I got from LaShawn. Pretty much right away she was on it. And but also while you were receiving, there are church groups that would come around, and they would pray for the ladies or do Bible studies and stuff like that. And I was in a room with 2 other girls initially. And so they already knew what the deal was. I was sitting on the bed, and when the ladies came to the door, they jumped up and went to the door. I want to say it was 2 ladies. So one lady was talking to the 2, and I was sitting on the bed, and the other lady just was like came to the corner of the door, and she just kept staring at me, and she was just staring at me, and I was just like really uncomfortable, trying to like look away. And she said, "Come here." So I got up and I walked to the door. Then she just stared at me for like 10 seconds. And you know 10 seconds of someone just staring at you for like 10 hours,
Sure
okay?
is.
And so she was just staring at me, and she said, God told me to tell you, you're not going to do the time man said you're going to do.
Okay.
But, and she said, you could have went in somewhere and got killed, but you came here because God had to preserve you for a greater purpose. She said, you need to start write a book or something. She said, because you're going to have to tell your testimony to help prevent someone else from making the same mistake that you did.
Right.
And that's going to be part of your purpose. And so I was just like, okay, because remember I said, I'm going back to court. I'm getting out of here. And when she said that, I'm like, okay, God confirmed that.
Right.
You know what
I'm getting out of here.
I'm getting out of here. Pay this money. I'm do this appeal. It's going to happen fast, right? Right away, right? Got good lawyers. Everything's popping.
So you like, okay, I accepted this now as far as the reality of being in prison, but I know that there's a light at the end of this tunnel. I'm gonna get this appeal and I'm back out in these streets.
Yes.
But God had a different plan, a little bit more humbleness, huh?
Yes. Oh, and God humble you. And this is the craziest thing, right? Because at the end, it was probably about $122,000 spent in lawyers and all kind of stuff. And God was like, you think that money gonna get you out of here? Like, I'm trying to show you that's not gonna, you keep thinking that's gonna give you some type of relief, some type of happiness, that's your freedom, but it's not. It's the obedience. It's the obedience to what I want you to do, to how I want you to operate your life. You've been disobeying all this whole time because you think that money is what's important, right? Yes, it's necessary. It's a necessity to be able to live, but it's not the main thing.
Right, because your addiction was money.
Yes.
And your lifestyle revolved around this for money. So the cockiness in you thought that same money was going to get you out of what it brought you into.
Exactly.
And that wasn't what was meant for your life, because obviously you didn't get out on a pill.
Right.
So now, how many years ago?
So, and it's so crazy. I got that message from that lady. A year goes by, and I lose the appeal. So now it's like I'm filing for PCRs now. So now that's the next phase, post-conviction relief. And so I'm going through that phase. And another year goes by. And then I start to get involved in some different things. Because at some point, I don't know exactly when, I decided I'm not going to be bitter. Like, this is terrible. I was watching all the people around me, all the inmates that was around me that was just bitter. And then they was just like they just drain the energy out of you. And that wasn't who I was. I was a happy person. I was all full of joy, and I wasn't going to let my situation, my circumstances change who I was, because that's what was beginning to happen initially. Eat you up, living business. So then I started, what's so crazy? I started to have dreams about being a mother. So bad to the point I woke up and smelled a baby.
Wow.
Like I smelled a newborn baby, like a fresh baby. Like, isn't that crazy? You know how that fresh baby smell, like baby powder? And I was just like,
they all got their lotion on.
Yeah, I'm just tripping. Like I'm up and I'm like, I'm in this same freaking prison, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm not going to tell anybody this story. They're going to think I'm crazy, trying to send me to, mental health or something. And so that was just like, kind of like gave me a sense of joy. And then it seemed like, it's almost like God was sending a messenger every now and then. So just one guy said, this is going to be your scripture, Mark 5:19. And I was like, he said, go find that scripture and read it. And Mark 5:19 says, go home and tell your family and friends how the Lord has had compassion on you and shown you great mercy. So I'm like, oh, baby, I'm about to get a letter.
I'm out of here.
Okay.
I'm out of here. On the back up.
Let me go pack right now. Look, mine, I don't want no box.
Holly, I'm out.
Listen, I don't want no box, no nothing. The messenger done came.
Or the bell out.
I'm out. I done got a sign. As soon as they call, it's a wrap. That didn't happen. So that's 2 years. And it seemed like every 2 years, God would send somebody. Like, and even before that, I would get little things here and there. It's so funny because I was still doing the same things, right? I had all the black novel books, right? I had my brother, like, sending me all the books, and all my friends. It's like every new Ashley and Jaquavis book that came out, I had it. I was the connect, okay, with the books. And everybody was like, yo, you want a good book? Holly got the books. I'm still reading the same stuff that was just fueling my old lifestyle. I was still attracted to the same talk, the same language, that same thing, that lifestyle.
And I know how jail goes. So now you're in prison. And
because you can go to jail in prison.
Right.
That was another thing.
You learn how to even maneuver there. Mm-hmm. Like, you got the best books, you got this going on, and somewhere you managed to survival skills, and wind up not completely transformed. Do you think that was survival, or do you think that was just before you had to like a phase to let you know that you had to transform your whole mind as far as how you was moving in jail? So
initially, I think it's almost like being comfortable with what you know already, in a sense, because you're not actually physically doing the same thing, so you don't recognize that still being engaged with the same type of books or movies or whatever is feeding the thing that you're not doing to give you the desire to want to do it again. You know what I'm saying? Like when you come home, or like have a plan of how you want to get it back in the negative way. And so it's so crazy, because when I tell you God will meet you where you are, I learned that lesson because I was reading one of the black author books. So God said, okay, so you don't want to transition and put these books down. All right, I'm about to pop up on you. I'm pulling up. That's how I felt God said to me. So, I'm reading this book. It's so good. It's like, the dude then killed 5 people, robbed the bank, his girl in the car. He on the getaway driver, high speed chases, guns blazing. Then all of a sudden, this scripture is right there, right in the middle. And it was the girl that was in the car reflecting back as she's dealing with this, in this situation with this guy that she's dealing with. She was reflecting back on something her grandma told her, or her mama said. It was 1 Corinthians 15:33. Do not be conformed bad company corrupts good character. That's the scripture that's in this shirt.
Okay.
Right here.
That's right.
Yes, over my heart. So this is my divine inspiration shirt. God is definitely necessary, and it has that scripture on the inside of here. 1 Corinthians 15:33. And then I have Mark 5:19 on my other shirts and on the inside of the other shirts. Because those scriptures were near and dear to my heart. That was God first kind of interrupted my norm.
Okay. The beginning of your transformation of your mind.
Right.
Okay, so
Subtle. He's subtle with it. He ain't pushy.
So you go to jail, you start transforming, and you start doing better things for yourself. You theology.
So there was an opportunity through Columbia International University. They had been doing a pilot program in the men's institution. It was a prison initiative program where you had the opportunity to get an associate's degree in biblical studies with a concentration in ministry. And you know, Columbia International University is very, prominent college, very well known. And so, biblical college. And so, they had a cohort for the women the first go round. And I didn't apply the first time because initially I'm about to go home. Remember? God just sent a word for me. We out of here. I'm just waiting for the paperwork to come
my
through.
pill, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. And so that didn't happen, obviously. But so I missed the first round, and I kept saying to myself, I didn't want to sign up for it because I didn't want to take an opportunity from somebody who had this time. Because another thing, you had to have at least 10 years. You know what I'm saying? You had all these, clear disciplinaries, whatever. And I didn't have to worry about all of that. And I had the time. But even me signing up for it was claiming that time. Right? It's so crazy. You had to have at least 10 years. Okay. All right? So, but during the first cohort, there was a young lady there that was fighting. She was a lifer with parole, and she kept fighting back and forth, with court. And her case actually set a precedent for a precedent. Word over there. All wrong. All twisted. You know what I'm saying? For parole hearings and stuff like that, because there was something where there were all the members, but pretty much she had the majority, but then they tried to not give her the parole because it was only 5 members instead of 7. I'm not really totally sure, but it showed me that while she was in going through the college program, she went home and didn't affect anybody. Like, nobody felt like they lost out or anything. There was nobody saying, I should have had that spot. And I guess it was like God wanted me to see that. Like, you can still go home, and take the little that you did learn, right? Because no one can take that from you. And that's another thing I had to come to the realization. Knowledge and information is so valuable, because when they lock you up and they take your clothes and they take your money, they strip you of everything, all your possessions, cars, all that stuff gets sold. All of these things happen. You lose so much. But what's in your head and your heart and your soul, you don't lose it. They can't take it from you. You get to hold on to that forever. You know what I'm saying? And so, and it's going to help you get all of that stuff back. If you get the right information, the right knowledge, the right things in your head and in your heart and in your soul, you can get all of that stuff back, right? And so when I started to, something began to change, right? I started to come to that realization. So the next time it came around, I applied.
Okay.
And I was accepted. So
now, you're getting released. How did that happen?
So after I finished Bible college, like you said, it didn't happen right away. Part of the contract about you filling out this application and attending this Bible college, you had to agree to do 3 years of ministry. So you really locked in for 5 years, which is why you needed to have at least 10 years initially. And so you did your 2 years of college and you agreed to do 3 years of ministry in whatever institution they sent you. At the time, there were 3 institutions, but only 2 that I qualified for because of my sentence. And it was Leith and Camille. Well, Camille is where I was. It was so close to my family. Got visits every week. Sometimes, twice in the weekends, or even 3 times, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, every week. And Leith was 2 hours away, now. But for some reason, I knew when I signed that contract, God gonna send me to Leith. I knew it. I felt it.
Wasn't gonna have you too close.
You gotta be pulled apart to be pulled up. Yeah. And so, and I was comfortable, right? Everybody loved me. I never did anything wrong, but I did not follow the rules, right? Because the rules be like your hair's contraband. If you got a cute hairstyle, you got a braids going, that's contraband. If you get a little bit of onions, I never did nothing serious, but I want to keep my hair done. I want a little onions in my food, stuff like that. So
little cheese,
my little cheese from the cafeteria, little broccoli, little special,
your little smell good,
special dinners, my little smell good. I just wanted little simple stuff,
right?
And so I realized that if I did want to do something else, it was easy to do. It would have been easy to do. And so I think that God was like, nah, you still got that mindset. Because even though it wasn't that bad, it was still violating the rules. It was still, and you was still doing that. And because of the type of person I was, nobody wanted to punish me. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes other people didn't get punished because they didn't want to punish me. Right? And so, so the Lord sent me to leave. And when I tell you, it's so funny. Chaplain Campbell, God bless the dead, she was our chaplain at Camille. And when she was retiring, an interim, chaplain had came and, she said, don't worry, don't worry about losing Chaplain Campbell. She was there for what you needed at the time. She said, but sometimes you need both the anesthesia and the scalpel for a proper surgery. You know what I mean? The anesthesia is what Chaplain Campbell was. She's going to numb you. But sometimes you got to get that scalpel. You got to get cut and cut deep. You know what I'm saying? To get that bad stuff out. You know what I'm saying? And while the anesthesia feels good, it numbs you from the pain. Sometimes you need that scalpel. And she said the next person was going to be that scalpel. But the next person was Chaplain Major. He wasn't a scalpel. He was even more anesthesia, more high potent anesthesia than Chaplain Campbell. He was great too. But Leaf, now Chaplain Jameson, scalpel. She had 2 scalpels, razor sharp, like a samurai sword scalpel. She wasn't no joke. But I learned a lot from her, and she always had the most powerful little sayings. And she would say, I don't want to hear nothing, no problems, because there are no problems. It's never a problem. It's like, what? Yo, you don't got a problem. If it's a problem, it's not a problem, because problems are just solutions that never manifested yet. You need to manifest some solutions. Right? And so I used to learn I learned so much from her, and I got to work under her for quite some time. There were some things I didn't always agree with, and sometimes it was because I had too much compassion. She was straight blade action.
You have to have that balance.
You have to have a proper balance, and that's what I learned.
Not everybody is made of the same substance you are. And just being an officer, I learned that very quick in my career, that everybody isn't the same. You have to have a perfect balance to know that every individual is different, and that you have to be ready for all personalities and things that's coming towards you.
Right.
So you got there, you in leave, you prospering. When do you get that Holly, you going home?
So, oh my goodness. So it kind of led up to that, right? I'm going back and forth. So my PCR gets postponed 3 different times.
Now, what year are we in at this point?
So we're in 2014 is when I first got the very first date for my PCR. So from 2014 to February 2019 to February, I want to say February 12th it was. I got the letter. It was dated February 12th, 2019. So for 2014 to February 12th, 2019.
That was a waiting period?
Because it's going back from the time my PCR was filed. It was 2014. Yes. And during that time, I'm back and forth with, I had 3 different court dates. Once I was actually granted the very first date, it took about 2 years. So 2016, I believe, 2016 or 2017 was my first court date that wound up being postponed. For months later. My parents came from New York and everything to be there for my PCR. The very first time, it was a young lady that was the judge. The second time, it was the same judge that sentenced me, so he couldn't do my PCR.
Oh, wow.
They had all of that twisted. My family's traveling and all of that stuff. The third time, it wound up being the first judge's father.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The first judge's father
winds up being my third judge, which is the one who granted me my PCR.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And that just let me know, it was almost like God said, nope, I got to get you in front of the right person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Timing is everything. The right person, right? Getting you in front of the right person for this. And the reason why I say that is because when he heard my PCR and everything, he was a man of few words. Afterwards, when I was leaving, the bailiff, that was there, he said, you got a really good chance. And I was like, really? Because I really I didn't understand the way. But he knows this judge, he knows this character. He said, because he's a harsh judge. And I can't remember the last time he said, I'm going to review it, things to get back to you. He's either good, yes, no, whatever.
No,
he's
right
very
there.
harsh. Said the way he was speaking with you and stuff like that. Because he told my lawyers, he was like, one of my lawyers, he said, what happened with this case? He said, did you get sick? Did you have an injury?
Right.
He didn't, what happened here?
Y'all dropped the ball.
Two lawyers, okay?
Who dropped the ball?
He was so upset about my situation. And so I find out later on I'm granted my PCR. But then the prosecution appealed it. Then I got it granted again. Then they appealed it again. So I'm back and forth and back and forth. You know what I'm saying? Both of those appeals. And finally, the final thing was it September? The end of August or whatever. I got a letter from my lawyer saying, you know what I'm saying? The judge still stuck with his ruling. You know what I'm saying? With you or whatever. And then on September 6th, I want to say it was. Yeah, September 6th on a Friday. We were on lockdown, I remember. It's so crazy because when I started writing affirmations. You okay? I started writing this affirmation, and
Excuse me.
in my affirmation, I would say, at the end, I'm going home today. Today is my day. I'm getting a second chance, and I'm going home today. Today is my day. And I was saying that for years. When I first started affirmation, can you imagine? Today is my day, and each day goes by. Each day goes by, and it's not the day, right? But finally, that day came. So we were on lockdown. And I knew it was kind of like any day, you know what I mean? But I just didn't think it was going to be on a Friday for some reason, especially coming straight off a lockdown. We come off a lockdown. I go to the phone to use the phone. And the officer said, Holly, I was like, yeah. She was like, you got to go on a run or something? Like, no. She said, you getting moved? I said, what's going on? She said, but they just called and said, pack up all your stuff. You got to be at the front.
On the pack up.
Yeah. Got to be at the front before count time. Pack it up.
Pack it up.
Girl. I froze. Mind you, I had a plan. I ain't taking nothing. I don't care about none of this stuff. I just want my clothes. I just want to change my clothes, put my clothes on, and I'm out the door. I froze. I couldn't move. It felt like my whole body got hot. I was like shaking. I was like, oh my God, like I was stuck. Like all my peoples had to do everything for me. They had to pack up my bag. Yo, I was so hot. I started sweating. I was like, I gotta rinse off. Like I'm just so sweaty. And it was just like, I was just so like, oh my goodness. So everybody just jumped into action. All the girls started helping me.
As they do.
Yeah, my friend Ronacia, she had a situation like that. She had got her case overturned and had to wind up going to the county, so she knew exactly what to do. She said they'll probably let you keep this, and I'm so glad she packed my bags and stuff for me, because I was able to have some things or whatever that I took with me to the county, because that's what has to happen when you get a PCR. You go to the county. It's kind of like your case starts all over again. So I go to the county, and and then when I get to the county, when an officer came and picked me up, and we had this conversation, he's just looking like, he's listening to everybody, whatever. But I know in his mind, he was like, this is crazy. Because, he came to get me for some bounce checks. Girl, when I got to the county and they was telling me about some bounce check, I said, so I packed up and y'all got me here for some bounce check. I've been in prison since
bounce checks
since 2010. These bounce checks happened in like 2014. Someone had got a hold of my checkbook. Again, when you away, people just do whatever. I guess they packed up my stuff from my house or whatever, found my checkbook, wrote 2 checks. So they come and take me back for some bounce checks on Thanksgiving. Oh no. Around Thanksgiving time for $30-something and $100 and some odd dollars, whatever. So I was like, I was in prison. And so they looked that up or whatever, threw that away. I said, so y'all made me pack up and everything for this? And so I was like, because my case just got overturned. So when they looked deeper, and it was like, oh, okay, like, yeah. That's what it is. And so I'm just like, all right, cool. So I had to stay there till I saw a judge. My lawyer came, and my lawyer didn't even know I was there at the time. So she came to see me, and then we went before a judge, and they gave me time served. So I wound up doing 9 years, 8 months, and 11 days off of 25.
Say it again. How much time?
9 years, 8 months, and 11 days.
Wow.
Almost 10.
9 years, almost 10.
Almost 10.
Almost that full decade.
Full decade.
I guess you could tell a little bit about, what you feel about your consequences and your rehabilitation, I guess, because it is rehabilitative. And before we go to the next segment, you could just discuss, in closing of what happened now that you have been released thus far. What year was that?
So I've been home since September 12th, 2019.
And your goal is now?
Wow, my goal is now. So I have so many things in order. Prior to me being incarcerated, I was working on developing new virtual fit technology for fashion and design. So that is in the works. It's at the final MVP stages. I'm working on my prototype. And like I said, it's at the final stages. The patent pending. And I'm just super excited to share more about that as things begin to finish up on those stages. I also have an e-commerce. I'm building a brand empire. Okay, so I have Styling is Necessary. It's my e-commerce site, and I also have Miss Blingologist because I have my Blingologist certification. Who would have thought that they made that a certification? Because the Lord knows we like to be blinged out. Okay, so now it's a certification. Thank you to Nicole for that, for putting that into play. She was amazing. Y'all got to check her out. But so I'm doing some things with that. I am doing the podcast because this is definitely a platform for many people to come and help to prevent other people from making some of the same mistakes they did, or just to even see how you can go from a situation of being in a pit or making terrible choices and change your story and create a different conclusion. So that is my goal. I have so many goals, but I'm just not going to tell you about all of those things now because there's way too many things in my head. But I just want to add value to people's lives, right? And in as many ways as I can. And just...
So basically what's happening here is Holli went from law and no order to Holli getting it together and being in order.
Yes,
now.
I am definitely operating on the laws of the land.
Yeah, so
okay,
we're gonna go into law and order now. No, but we had to hit the no order first so we could get to, the story of where she's about to go.
Right.
And let this podcast reach out to people. People have stories that's very impactful, and there are people out here right now with their stories and what they accomplished. No matter all the wrong decisions, we all make bad decisions, but no matter what their consequence was, they able to rebuild. So Holli's an example of just rebuilding and just showing that once you change your mind, that you could be so successful at other things as well, which I'm so proud of her. She's just doing so much, and she's so motivative, and you have to be around like minds to get to places that you need to get to in life. So people are placed in your life for reasons, seasons, lifetimes, sometimes all three.
Yes.
But as this podcast develop more, you're going to hear more stories of real life people who have made some choices that they have paid some consequences for, but yet it didn't break them. They still here. And they are accomplishing big things.
Yes.
Big things.
Yes.
So until the next time.
Yes.
Law and
No Order Special Survivors Unit. Stay tuned, okay? Y'all have to come back and see us.
Yes.
Because we got a lot to talk about.
Too much.
And we're going to introduce you to our friends. And we just going to have a great time.
Because we still are kind of out of order. But y'all see that at a later date.
Yes. All right. Y'all have a great night. Hey, y'all. I'm back. I hope you enjoyed the first episode. I know the emotions were probably up and down a little bit, but I just hope that you are able to connect with some of the things. Some people probably wouldn't understand some things, but for those of you who did, I hope that you did enjoy it. And even for those who probably can't relate to a lot of things, I hope there was something positive that you were able to take away from it, right? Because we're not going to focus on the negative part of anyone's story. We understand that it's a part of their life. It's definitely a strong part of their testimony, but we want to focus on cultivating a different conclusion, and that's where we all need to go, because we have the power to change our story. It's so important for each and every one of us to understand that, and to understand how important it is for choosing your team, choosing the right people to be in your circle, choosing the right people to be in your life. And that's in every area of your life, romantically, friendship wise, whatever, because they have a big impact on the choices that you make, with the chances that you're given, okay? But they don't suffer the consequences with you. Not all of them. Some people stick around for the consequences, but many will not, okay? So you have to understand that you are going to be the one to deal with any consequences. It is your responsibility for your life. No one is responsible for your choices, okay, when you're grown, all right? You have to leave all of that aside, okay? Only kids get to blame other people to a certain degree, right? So I am super excited from how we set it off, and there is so much more exciting stuff to come. You're going to hear more from me, more about my story. That was just a little bit. There's so many highlights in between that we're going to get to talk about, and I have to save some stuff for the book and the movie and the series. I can't give everything to you, but I have some amazing interviews, some other people that want to share their stories with you. So next Friday, get ready, okay? Because you're going to have an exclusive with Donnell Hughes from Boss Baby Entertainment, okay? And he's going to tell you how 2 minutes cost him 20 years of his life. So stay tuned. See you next week.